Welcome back to the Scotti-BYTE channel, and this is Scott. So we want to talk about server startup times. Have you ever wanted to diagnose why your Ubuntu server or your Ubuntu desktop instance seems to start too slowly? Well, systemctl is a systemd utility that is responsible for controlling the systemd system and service manager. Systemctl is important to learn in order to understand what is running on your system and also how to diagnose problems with those services. So let's go see how to work with services in Ubuntu. So here we are at the terminal prompt on my desktop system, and the first command that I want to show you is sudo systemctl --version. And this command lists out simply the version of system controller that you're using. And sometimes that can be valuable if you're looking for a particular feature or function. The next command, which is really valuable, is sudo systemd-analyze. And systemd-analyze comes back and tells you how long it took for startup to take place. In this particular case, it says that it took 26 seconds for my startup. Well, so prior to this, I had a problem where my system was starting slowly, and my desktop system actually took almost 3 minutes to boot. And after I looked at this, it was really helpful in diagnosing the problem. So you're going to say, well, how's that helpful? Well, there's another command called systemd-analyze, and then you put the word blame on the end, and the blame goes ahead and evaluates in order of the system component that took the longest to start, and it lists all the system components that started. In this particular case, you can see that Network Manager took 30 seconds to start, and that's not really unusual because you're always dealing with connecting to your network device, the NIC that you have on your machine. And prior to this, I had my iSCSI service taking almost 2.5 minutes to start just on its own. And what that was, the cause of that was the fact that my iSCSI initiator that was running over on my host was offering iSCSI connectivity on interfaces that were not reachable by the machine that I was mounting the iSCSI on. So when I limited the iSCSI initiator to only offering my iSCSI devices on the particular interfaces, then when I went back, iSCSI startup is no longer taking hardly any time at all. So you can go down in this list. You can see that Network Manager took 30 seconds, Snap took 7.9 seconds, and then from then on, it really isn't all that bad because you're looking at millisecond type times for some of these other things, and it goes all the way down the list to the bottom, and you can see that there's quite a few things in the system startup. We get all the way to the end. Here's something that was only taking 1 millisecond. So another command that's really valuable is systemctl status, and that lists everything that started on your system. And you notice at the top it says that the state is degraded, and that means that I have one or more services that currently did not start correctly when the system started up or when the service started up. And you can go down through the list and see all the various services on your system. To figure out which service didn't start correctly, you can do a sudo systemctl -- failed. And you can see in this list that I have the Apache 2 service says it's not found. And the reason for that is because since boot time, I removed the Apache web server from this system. And now it realizes that it was a service it was supposed to check. When I turn around and reboot after the service has been deleted, it will no longer be looking for that. At this point in time, it says, well, you did have this service when you booted, but I'm not seeing it anymore. And then the other thing is this read ahead service, and this occurs because of how the system is initially started up and loaded, and this is only needed at boot time. You can also see these kinds of services inside of a LXD container. In particular, the cloud init service inside of a LXD container will often tell you that it could not start correctly. So anyway, this is a good way to look at services, find out which ones aren't started correctly, and to begin to debug the problems with them. So let's install the Apache web server with the sudo apt install apache 2. Now that the Apache web server is installed, let's do a sudo systemctl status apache 2, and you can see that it says it's loaded, it's active, and it's running, so we know that it's working. So if we stop Apache 2 with the systemctl stop apache 2, and then we do the status once again, you can see that it's inactive or dead, which is telling us that the service is currently stopped. Another thing that we can do is we can obviously start it back up again. And there's also a restart command. So in the case of a web server, if you make changes to your web server, you might want to do a restart in order to recache the files and restart the service. The majority of the services that are installed are really in two locations. One location is user lib systemd system, and you can see here that there's quite a few services in here. Taking the example of our Apache 2 service, it is defined in a file called apache2.service, and here's what a typical service definition file looks like. When you install products like Apache 2 or other self-hosted type products, they generally will install a service with them, but there's many instances where they do not install a service and you need to define your own service. So that's one of the things that we're going to do today. Another location where services are frequently stored is /etc/systemd/system, and there is an example of some of the services that are located in that folder. We're going to go invoke the nano editor to edit a service called rc-local.service. And this service is very simple, and all it does is check for the existence of a script file located in /etc/rc.local, which will be the script that we're going to run with our service. So here's the script file, /etc/rc.local. You can see that it's a very simple script file. It has a shebang /bin/sh space -e, which simply tells it the command shell, and then sudo, and we just list the date command out, and we redirect it to my home folder /scott/ a file called booted.txt, and then we exit the service. After editing the script file, it's going to be very important to set the permission on that script file with execute privilege with the sudo chmod +x space /etc/rc.local. Now that we have the service file and the script, we're going to enable the service with the sudo systemctl enable rc-local.service. And what this command does is it sets the service up so that when the system is rebooted, the service will start. We don't really need to start this service now because what we're going to do next is a reboot with the sudo reboot. So this is a LXC instance here, and it's killing it, and it's going to reboot. So I'm connecting to my LXD instance once again. Now that I'm connected to it, I'm going to su over to Scott. Now when I do an ls, you can see booted.txt, and if I cat booted.txt, you can see the results of the date and time function that we requested in the script. So finally, we can see the status of our service with a sudo systemctl status rc-local, and you can see here that the service is active, but it is exited. And the reason it's exited is because after it ran the script, it really didn't have anything left to do. So now we can disable the service with a sudo systemctl disable rc-local, and that removes it from the systemd table. And what that does is it prevents the service from starting when the system reboots. So since this video originally started out to be about system startup times, and we ended up talking a lot about services, one of the other things I wanted to bring up is a file that's called /etc/systemd/system.conf, and I encourage you to make a copy of this file before editing it. But if you go into this file with the Nano editor and you do a search for default timeout, this particular value, default timeout stop sec, equals to 2 seconds is what I set it to on my system. But originally on my Ubuntu system, this was set for 90 seconds, and that was really causing my shutdown times when I used the shutdown power off option from the menu to take a long period of time. So anyway, that's something you can edit and save, and it should improve your shutdown time as well. In summary, analyzing problems with slow server startups is easy. Understanding how to start a service that runs a script is a core requirement for many applications that you might want to run in your home lab. And understanding how to use the systemctl command to enable, disable, start, stop, and restart services is an important skill. Systemctl helps diagnose problems with your system. Anyway, that's it for today. Please subscribe and like to the channel, and we'll see you next time.